another issue that might seem a little bit outlandish. We have radioactive products have made their way into the United States and were distributed to retail stores, Bed Bath and Beyond, in 20 different states, in fact, have been found to be selling radioactive metallic tissue holders. Now, these products are made with cobalt-60, a highly radioactive substance. It's actually used in radiotherapy devices. Yeah, they actually fry cancer tumors to death. They emit gamma radiation used in medical devices and other types of devices, some military devices as well. How much radiation do these tissue holders emit? The Nuclear Regulatory Commission spokesperson David McIntyre said that standing next to one of these for 30 minutes a day would expose you to the equivalent of a couple of chest x-rays a year. Well, what happens if you sleep next to one? If you have one on the bedstand by the bed and you're sleeping next to it for 10 hours a night, you're going to get the equivalent of potentially 100 or a couple of 100 chest x-rays a year. And interestingly, the mainstream media, well, the corporate-run hoax media, we should say, has said there is no danger for possessing one of these devices, but they failed to say that if you are caught with one of these devices, you could be arrested, detained, prosecuted, and interrogated under both the U.S. Patriot Act for having a weapon of mass destruction, as well as the NDAA, recently signed by Obama. Yeah, you have materials to make a dirty bomb, and you bought it at Bed Bath and Beyond. In fact, you could get arrested by the TSA at a roadside checkpoint just trying to return the product and get your money back. And if you bury it in the yard, well, the EPA comes in and seizes your entire property and says you can't build anything on it. So what do? You're now stuck as a victim in a police state society that's selling you radioactive products and then accusing you for having the random bad luck to get cancer. It's a crazy world, yeah. Speaking of cancer, moving on to thyroid cancer, doctors are now scratching their heads and wondering why thyroid cancer cases are on the rise in America. Thyroid cancer has been skyrocketing faster than any other form of cancer. The National Cancer Institute has statistics that suggest the number of cases has increased by about 6.5%. I believe that's an annual number. Over a decade, that has added up to making thyroid cancer the fastest increasing cancer. We have thyroid cancer specialists who say, or one woman says, 10 years ago, if I saw 4 new thyroid cancer patients a year, that would have been a lot. That's from G. Irene Miner, a radiation oncologist with Indiana University Health Central Indiana Cancer Center. Now, she says, sometimes I see that many in a month, and I have seen 3 in a week. What makes you wonder what's going on with all of the cancer? What's behind it? What are the causes? Well, USA Today reports that obesity, radiation exposure, and diets low in fruits and vegetables are 3 potential culprits. And they're quoting a man named Huntley there. You notice they don't say Fukushima? You notice they don't say radiation from nuclear accidents blowing over into North America, dropping onto your soils and getting into your food? You notice they don't mention the radioactive products that you might be purchasing from Bed Bath and Beyond? No, you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. That's their only answer. It's quite remarkable, but this is just another example of how the corporate-run media downplays real dangers. Radiation is a real danger to your health, while exaggerating fake imaginary dangers like the war on terror, which is mostly just engineered and fabricated, as you well know, as a regular viewer of Infowars Nightly News. Now, we have more news for you here tonight. The LA Times is reporting the TSA, speaking of radiation, the TSA plans now, after so much pressure on it, to test the machines and test the workers there at the airports. The TSA says it's going to test its airport scanner operators for radiation exposure. That's right. After years of rebuffing health concerns over airport scanners, they say they plan to conduct new tests. Well, hey, they can say they plan to do anything. They said they plan to stop molesting your grandma and removing her colostomy bag while she was sitting in her wheelchair trying to get through airport security. But did they stop doing that? No. They said they would stop molesting little children and searching for poop bombs in their diapers. But did they stop doing that? No, they didn't. They can say anything they want. If there's anything that we've learned in the last couple of years, it's that the TSA lies to you every chance they get. And they're lying to their own employees by saying, oh, it's a safe work environment. Whoa, your hair is glowing, your thyroid has cancer. Don't worry, it's a safe work environment. But if they do follow through with this promise, they're going to have their workers wearing dosimeters so they can actually monitor the amount of radiation they get and see just how badly they're being fried from the radiation-emitting security devices that they have you and I walk through. And they continue to lie, by the way, to say that these have been certified as safe by the NIST, even though the NIST has publicly said that is not true. Just another lie from the TSA. Now we have another article on Infowars.com by Paul Joseph Watson breaking down the health effects of these radiation devices, being the naked body scanners being used by the TSA. And this story is entitled TSA to Test Body Scanner Operators for Radiation Exposure. It cites numerous studies from Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, the University of California, and the Interagency Committee on Radiation Safety. It says that a cluster of cancer cases has now been detected among TSA workers, and you can find more about that story at Infowars.com. There's another story, also by Paul Joseph Watson, published at Infowars.com. Cancer surges in body scanner operators, and the TSA launches a cover-up. Well, what more would you expect from the TSA than a cover-up? Fearful of provoking further public resistance to naked airport body scanners, the TSA has been caught covering up a surge of cases in TSA workers developing cancer. The story reports, and you can read more about that story by Paul Watson right there on Infowars.com. Never a day goes by that we aren't entertained by the TSA's lies. There's always something. It's usually involving elderly women or diapers or radiation. It's like a bad Beavis and Butthead episode run by the federal government or something. I'm not sure how they get to all that. Moving on, dead on arrival. SOPA is now shelved, and we don't know if it's permanently shelved or not. That's right. This is the Online Intellectual Property Act, SOPA, the Anti-Piracy Act, I should say, that said it was going to stop piracy, but in fact was just a government censorship bill to try to take down websites publishing information that the government did not like. And here's a quote from shtfplan.com. While this bill of goods was being sold to the American public as a way to reduce online piracy, in essence, the legislation would have made it possible for any organization to target websites using excerpts, quotes, and videos without express permission of the authors or producers of such content. So dead on arrival now, SOPA shelved indefinitely. Believe it or not, the White House has now come out against it. Although, don't forget, Obama said he wasn't going to sign the NDAA, and yet he did. So that Obama can say anything he wants. He can say he's against it. He can be just like the TSA and lie to your face, and at the end of the day, he may end up signing it anyway. That is a tactic they're now using. Well, hey, every White House has been using that tactic for a long time to get bills passed, even though they know the bills are offensive to freedom-minded individuals, and there are a great many of those still remaining here in the great United States of America. Thank goodness for that. And thank you for watching, by the way. Now, if you consider yourself an American citizen, and you've been watching the entire debate about the NDAA, you may have come to the realization that, hey, as long as I'm an American citizen, I've got my Bill of Rights, right? Well, what if they could strip you of your citizenship? Then they could arrest you, detain you, interrogate you, assassinate you, put you in Gitmo or some other secret military prison and do basically anything they wanted to you, strip you of your due process rights, deny you a lawyer, and do anything they want to you without ever charging you with a crime. This is what is now possible under the new Enemy Expatriation Act. This is H.R. Bill 3166 with an accompanying Senate Bill 1698. And Alex Jones had something to say about this. As you might imagine, he said, the Enemy Expatriation Act is similar to the Nazi faction's Nuremberg laws, where Adolf Hitler took away German citizenship based on race, blood types, and those against the Hitler regime. Now, what's important to note about this is that, oh, wait a minute, here's a quote from the story, Digital Journal. Whether American citizens who are guaranteed due process of law by their Bill of Rights were included in the authority of the NDAA was not made absolutely clear. Here's why this matters. You see, when this bill, the Enemy Expatriation Act, is combined with the NDAA, then you have a two-pronged assault on your liberty. You see, Obama was explaining, well, the NDAA doesn't necessarily, it's not really going to be implemented against American citizens. But then they could say, well, if you support terrorism, or if you're working in opposition to the United States of America, which means the current government, then they could first strip you of your citizenship and then nail you under NDAA because you're no longer an American citizen with Bill of Rights protection. You see how that works? It's almost like good cop, bad cop, but it's two bad cops working in conspiracy to strip you of your freedoms. We have another, well, we already covered that quote there. Anyway, the good news is that SOPA is now being shelved, and I want to give a big shout out to all those out there who worked to help stop this bill, including, I forgot the man's name, who is Frederick, an Infowars listener who started the boycott of GoDaddy, which was very, very effective. And in fact, we have many other websites that were planning a day to go dark because of SOPA, and believe it or not, Natural News was planning on doing that too. We were going to go dark on Wednesday, guys. Now I'm not sure if we're going to do that. But in any case, this is another example of liberty-minded people standing up for their rights and stopping a very bad bill. But remember, you must have eternal vigilance, because the powers that be will try to bring this back again and again in different forms with different bills. Now we have some more health news for you tonight. A totally drug-resistant form of tuberculosis has now been reported in India. Yeah, really drug-resistant, and it's extremely fatal too. So far, a 25% fatality rate. How big is that rate? Well, remember the swine flu from a couple years ago that they were scaring us about? That only had a fatality rate of something like 1% or even less. Well, this is reported in the New York Daily News that now 12 have been infected with this completely drug-resistant strain of TB. 3 have already died, and 9 are clinging to life in India. This is, of course, the result of the widespread abuse of antibiotics, and it means that conventional medicine has absolutely no way to help these people. It also means that if this strain is somehow carried to the United States, that hospitals will become death zones. It's not an exaggeration. Hospitals are already infected with almost epidemic levels of superbugs, and a superbug drug-resistant form of TB could just be added to that. Hey, it's another reason to keep your vitamin D levels up, folks. Get into some good nutrition and take care of your health, because TB is getting worse around the planet.